Blanche, at the time you weren't lying. Cohen says at the time I was knee-deep into the cult of Donald Trump. Yes, this is about 2015 when he was running for president. You said he's a man who cares deeply about this country, that he's a man who tells it straight. You also said again, I'm still in 2015. Cohen said, I did say that. Blanche is a man who tells it straight, speaks from the heart, and all he wants to do is make this country great again. Cohen said, I've said that sounds right. And here's where he asked this. At the time, you weren't lying? Cohen says at the time, again, I was knee-deep into the cult of Donald Trump. Yes. Blanche asks, let me ask that again. At the time, you were not lying. Cohen, I was not lying. No, that's how I felt. Blanche, you were telling the truth. Cohen says, that's how I felt. Blanche, you were telling the truth. Cohen says, that's how I felt. He asked it twice, and Cohen answered it twice. Andrew?
You know, this is sort of an interesting cross because I don't think you were learning anything to our prior conversation that was not brought out on direct. I thought one of the most poignant moments on direct was when Susan Hoffinger asked when Michael Cohen first started working at the Trump Organization and he would do something for Donald Trump and Donald Trump would respond by saying, that's great or that's fantastic. And she said, how did you feel? And he said, I felt on top of the world. And you got this sense that he needed Trump's approval and that he was, they use the term obsessed, but it wasn't really obsessed, as you said. It's that was just so much a part of what he was hoping to have from him. This is just underscoring it. I don't know that it makes him look bad. I mean, to me, it brings him, like, well, they need to say this guy is a horrible criminal who's just done this parade of horrible things. But he is, you know, this is Donald Trump's person. And that is, to me, this is sort of surrounding him with, you know, making Trump and Michael Cohen sort of, you know, have this symbiotic relationship. I don't know that's the most effective thing that they were that close and there was that close bond because Michael Cohen's already explained who he was then and also the feeling of anger and abuse that came from Trump in terms of how he was treated after being so loyal.
And before we got to that moment, they asked him about his relationship with the entire family. Blanche says the 9.5 years you were there, you represented Trump and his family. I have Melania, Don Jr. I don't think I ever represented Eric. You also helped some of the kids with various work, not necessarily legal work, but reaching out to the media on behalf of President Trump's children. Yes, sir. Then they also say he made $375,000 base salary, with the exception of a 2016 bonus that was $125,000. I did. His financial success, his high profile, his tenacity. Those are the things he's pointing out that caused him to care about, want to emulate, wanted to be very close to and serving Donald Trump.
And I agree with Andrew. It's basically establishing that he was an insider. He knew about the family. He worked with them. He was like Donald Trump's right arm. So I don't know the point of this. Because they want to say he's rogue and distant. Yeah, it's helping the prosecution. So I don't know the point of it for the defense to just prove that he really was an insider and was a trusted member of the Trump Organization, or at least for Donald Trump.
You said you would take a bullet for the president. Cohen says, I did say that, yes. You talked at that time, towards the end of the campaign, that you were offered a book deal. Cohen says, yes. You were offered $10 million to write a tell-all book. Is that right? Cohen says, I believe so. First of all, wow. Blanche, what you said in the article was counteroffer. What you said in the article was that you counteroffered, how about $100 million? Cohen says, correct. According to the article, you were just pushing it to see how high it would go. Cohen says that's not true. In 2017, you had no intention of writing a book. Cohen, I had no intention of writing a book. No money in the world that would cause you to write a book about his family, Blanche asks. Cohen sounds correct, yes. Blanche, no money that would get you to disclose anything about his family? Cohen says, okay. You describe them as a surrogate family. Cohen says, correct. What's he getting at here?
The thing that's missing from the defense at the moment that they're trying to put in here is that Trump didn't know about the false business records. The DA's office has really proven up the falsity of the business records with Weisselberg's handwriting. We know that that's false. It's a slam dunk case. They couldn't bring it. As a misdemeanor, the statute of limitations had passed. They've done a good job of showing the intent to defraud the voters. They've done a good job of showing the intent to conceal this conspiracy. What's missing is that Trump knew about the false business records, and they have a circumstantial case. And what they're trying to do really is show this is somebody who was loyal to Trump. He was telling the truth at the time. And then when he didn't get a job in the administration, he got so upset and so despondent about not going to Washington, D.C. And that does comport with what Keith Davidson said about these phone calls he had with Michael Cohen, where he thought Michael Cohen was so despondent about it that he decided he was going to punish Donald Trump and basically frame him for
So
this.
it sounds like they're trying to do that right now. The first year when Donald Trump was in office, you went from seeing him almost daily, except when he was campaigning, to not seeing him nearly as much when he was at the White House. Cohen says correct. You told Hope Hicks you missed him, Blanche says. Cohen says, yes, I did. I had a great relationship with my colleagues. President Trump said the same thing at a fundraiser in Washington, D.C. Blanche, there was an ongoing investigation and there was a separation. Cohen says, yes, there was a separation. Blanche, you spoke about how it was frustrating. You were disappointed not to be able to spend as much time with Trump and the kids because of the investigation. Waiting for Michael Cohen's response. But it sounds like it's getting at where you were going, Duncan.
We're starting to see what the defense is in their questioning of these witnesses. They are stuck with certain facts that they can't do anything about. Weisselberg's handwriting, those text messages, the phone records. And so they have two witnesses, one of whom is a liar who's on the stand right now, and he's an admitted liar, and the other is missing. And that's Alan Weisselberg and Michael Cohen. And the two of them are the defense to this case, that the two of them cooked the books themselves and that Donald Trump didn't know about it. And so you're seeing that in the questioning, that he was so upset to not get a job in the administration that he decided to frame the president of the United States for a crime that he didn't commit, for this false business records. And I think we will see that more in the testimony to come when the defense case comes. And to that point, I don't think Donald Trump's testimony really matters to that defense. They'll be able to argue it to the jury without his defense. So we may very well see a very streamlined defense. They don't have to call a lot of witnesses to be able to argue that.
They don't have to prove anything. The prosecution has the burden here. The defense has
Let me
to.
pick up where you left off, because it's getting a little brutal, depending on your point of view. Todd Blanche says, let me ask this in a different way. You were told to stay away and not communicate with him and his family. Cohen, I was told not to speak to President Trump, but not his family. Not that I couldn't see his kids. I just didn't.
Okay, so this is totally misleading. When a criminal investigation occurs, and I know this because both having done it on the defense side and the prosecution side, everyone gets lawyered up. So President Trump had lawyers, Michael Cohen had lawyers. All of those lawyers will say to their clients, do not speak. The principals should not speak to each other. It goes through counsel. To use that as a way to say, oh, see, you were suddenly shunned is really wrong. That is not what goes on in a criminal investigation. No one's shunning each other. In fact, the fact that all of them have counsel and are being told don't speak to each other is in the interest of everyone in the conspiracy. That is standard practice. So to make that sort of a motive of like, oh, see, you were shunned outside of the group, no, that is not what happens.
What's interesting